Hello everyone and welkom bij de APDL Power Rankings. We are here with James. Can
Hello.
you say hi?
Hi.
And we are here with Big Mac Sack.
Hello, hello.
Hello. We are going to rank the teams of Grookey, starting off with Ryme City, Rhydons.
So initially looking at this one, it's got some powerhouse Pokemon on it. But you can quickly notice that they have 4 1-pointers, which it's an interesting strategy in draft. It makes prep a lot more predictable in terms of what they most likely will bring. Oh, my fault. 3 1-pointers. Shuckle's a 3-pointer. But nonetheless, they do have quite a bit of weaknesses.
Yeah, we got a really big weakness against ground types, where we don't really have an answer against. We have a interesting set with, I think Dragapult gets beat up, and that
Correct.
gets beat up, and it can hit Mudtail with beat up, so it gets its stamina boost. It also gets Surf, so it can run weakness policies in the race G-Max or weakness policy Mudtail. It's got a redirector in Among Us, which is a decent
I don't think
redirector.
Among Us is that good, to be honest, in draft. Because of Rage Powder.
Not really.
Can just
not really,
bring safety
because you
goggles.
can really. Yes, or you can just bring a crash type.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's.
You can go ahead.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I do think Among Us does play fairly well into this team though, just because having like something like Cinderace that's not too tanky, being able to just launch continuous attacks with Cinderace is pretty decent. Especially with my experience using Cinderace last season and Rillaboom. My biggest drawback was not having any form of protection for it, so redirecting right there could be decent. And I do think forcing it, because your opponent, no matter what, has to prep for Among Us.
Yeah.
It is to cover, but having to, it basically baits them into bringing safety goggles, and it's not awful. Overall, it's a
good.
Decent.
Yeah, it's got Zacian, and he picked Grookey, so he has to.
Isn't Grookey his only fake out user as well?
But Zacian, it's really strong, so.
Right.
Yeah,
Would you rate this out of 10?
I think he will do decent. I will rate it a 6.
I'd give it I'd give it a strong 6.
Yeah, I'd agree with. Right.
Just because I give it a 6 because it's not bad. It could be way worse, but it's easy to prepare against, and it's got some big problems in against ground types. It's Earthquake, and half of his team will be dead most of the times.
I guess something we didn't really touch on either is it doesn't really have too much speed control. I just noted it doesn't have Tailwind really. It has Ghastly for Trick Room, which it's not too viable. So Mudsdale's most likely just going to be outsped in most cases.
Yeah.
Yeah, my Lotus can use Icy Winds.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
Yeah. True.
Right. Let's go on to the next team.
This one, it's so Eternatus isn't bad. It's got similar usage, just like Zacian. Obviously not as popular, but in terms of just a hard-hitting mon that can hit anything that's Dynamax, it can be good. Togekiss is a phenomenal redirector, especially paired with Eternatus. Obviously, it's fairy typing being immune to Dragon, so that's not a bad combo there.
Yeah, I really like this team. It's got
Yeah,
good speed control with Talonflame, and it's got Trick Room. Good setter with Oranguru. Can't be fake out.
I think, yeah, but it has a big weakness against electric types. Which
yeah.
I
Which
don't-
at that point, that's where I think the
Lightning Rod.
Togedemaru, yeah, the Lightning Rod
Yeah.
would have to play a massive role.
Yeah, and I think it was he was the first pick in our draft, and he picked Lapras G-Max. So I think Lapras G-Max is a great Pokemon in this tier, since it has a lot of coverage against all the restricted moves. It's ice coverage against things like Rayquaza, Lugia, and water coverage against Ho-Oh. It's also it also has Thunder against Kyogre. So I think
I do want to say this team does have some really good immunities as well, aside from Togekiss. I mean, you have Drampa with Cloud9's a good weather counter, but then having Sap Sipper is a potential tech option, especially against a team with like Rillaboom or something. It's not a bad switch in there.
Yeah. Same goes for Maractus with Storm
water.
Drain.
Yeah. This team has a massive ice weakness though.
Yeah.
Yes.
If we had to rate this one, I'd probably say 7.
Yeah, I'll go with 7.
Yeah, 7.5. I think he's going to do. I think he is going to get to playoffs just because he can really surprise people, but he won't make it past the first round.
Alright, I would put in 7.
Yeah.
And now we've got Checkmate and Vicious Volcaronas. This was a guy that got Charger Bug round 1, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he picked Charger Bug round 1. He has a really interesting team. I don't really know if I should call it bad or I should call
I'll
it
be honest, even considering the round 1 Charger Bug, he's still got some really good Pokemon. Like, to the fact that I don't know what round he drafted Calyrex Shadow, but pairing that with Charger Bug's ability, Battery, it's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's got Psychic Terrain for it as well, which is really nice.
Yeah.
He also has Rage Powder with Volcarona and Bert and Howducha. Hi.
I do think Alchemy is a very underrated support Pokemon that no one really uses anymore. Decory is super good in draft, especially like, you can run Choice Scarf sets and actually outspeed more things than you would think.
Yeah.
So Decorate next to Dragonite, for example, could be pretty strong. Overall, it's not, and by no means not a bad team. Psychic Terrain with Unburden Hawlucha also isn't bad.
Yeah, and it's Alchemy and G-Max also has a G-Max move which heals which heals Alchemy and his partner.
Right.
Together with Tone Joiner, which I think Power Spots
it's like Charger Bug's ability, isn't it?
The problem with this team is when Calyrex Shadow is gone, then he doesn't really have any good monks too.
Yeah, it just kind of It comes down to what they end up Dynamaxing, basically.
Yeah. He has Dragonite and Hawlucha, but I don't think those are enough. Those got enough offensive power to be a secondary offensive threat.
Yeah.
If he can set up a Dragon Dance with Dragonite, then it can be really good.
I think the other issue that I do faintly see is he only. I think Fake Out's a really important part of draft, and his only Fake Out user being Indeedee, which if he runs Psychic Surge, you can't even use Fake Out anyways. So he may run into some issues stopping certain teams, but aside from that, you can go ahead.
We also have to talk about his speed control. Like, he has speed control, but not some great speed control. He has Trick Room on his Calyrex, but he will never use that. He got some 3 Trick Room Pokemons, which he will never use, since his Pokemons are just too fast. His Hawlucha, it says it got Tailwind, but I think that was banned in...
Yeah.
I'm honestly... I don't think Dragon gets Tailwind either, if I'm not mistaken, anymore.
I don't think any of those get Tailwind now.
Maybe Volcarona. Let me check really quick.
I think it's just the Rage Powder on it.
I will check really quick.
I think, personally, I would probably give this team about 6 or 6.5.
I would do a safe 6 again. Like I said, it can definitely do stuff. I just think there's some holes.
I think 6 and maybe 5.5. Since I don't really like his team, since it's all based around Calyrex. And Calyrex dies, and he got a really huge problem. Besides that, it's hard to let...
Alright. Next team is Galactic Porygons, coached by Pumpkin.
Alright. So this team
is... I want to say something about this before we start. He wants to trade his Metagross with the next team, Mineapolis Marshadows, with a Thunderous Incinerate. So when that trade continues, then he also has a Thunderous.
I thought it was Thunderous that he was trading for.
Yeah, it's Thunderous. So I don't know if I like it, but
I do think that Thunderous would be better than Metagross on his team, just because like he already has. I do know like Tornadus Metagross is a good core on its own, but he kind of already has Escavalier, his like the Steel type sweeper. I think he lacks an offensive Electric type.
But personally, I would rather trade my Escavalier for a better Electric type, since he can also run Kyogre Thunder. Then I will change Metagross. Escavalier is really slow. It was really like it was rated like something like Trick Room, but he hasn't any ability to do so. And Tornadus can use Tailwind as well as Katana, but Escavalier is not fast enough. It has 20 base speed points, so it's not fast enough.
I do like Kartana on the Rancor, and obviously, I mean, you have to respect the Kyogre Tornadus, the famous 2-mon Rancor that's everywhere. Having Kingdra in the back is also pretty solid. I think the team starts very, very solid. As you trickle down, Machamp, I know, can do things based off, I believe it's Thwackey division last season. Lilligant, I think, is really out of place here, just because that's more of a Sun team Pokemon, so I'm not sure what their plans are for that.
Maybe it's planning to counter Sun teams with it, so I don't know, but he also has Pichu, which has Lightning Rod, which is a great thing for his team, and it's really cheap.
I think
As
the
far as
Kabutops and Armaldo just unneeded here.
Yes, I think so too.
I think they went for. I get they went for a full like Rancor team, but I don't think having that many Swift Swim users, especially when they're kind of mediocre Swift Swim users, they could have been positions that filled out other type coverages. Like for example, ones they don't have a fire type on their team, they don't have a fairy type or dark type. They don't have a fake out user, anything with Will-O-Wisp. I mean, there was other options they could have done to be more diverse.
Yeah, I'd probably get Trick Room set up.
The fun thing about this team is that he has three types of three great steel type Pokemons, but this team is actually kind of weak to steel types. If you look closely, it has Machamp, but besides Machamp, it doesn't really have something to fight against it. And Kabutops and Armaldo will not do any damage against steel types.
It does. It definitely does get kind of walled. I wouldn't say it's weak to steel, but it definitely gets walled by steel types.
Yeah.
He has loads of steel resists though. Like 6 steel resists.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. He's not weak to steel. He just kind of gets walled. Like he doesn't have any offensive presence.
Sorry. Yeah, that's what I meant.
I don't know. Overall, I said I think it starts really good, and it'd be interesting to see what he does with it. I would say honestly, as a whole, probably like a 5 even, just because I only see the first, like the top half of the team really being used.
Yeah, I'd probably say 5.5.
Yeah, I would say this. I would actually say 6. Besides that, I told before. I think it's before we gave the team before in 5.5/6. I think this team is still slightly better than the other team, just because of the Kyogre, Katana, Tornadus core.
Yeah, but that's all that's really carrying them.
Yeah, so it's I think it's yeah.
If you look at all their physical attackers, so like I said, if you look at Kartana, Metagross, Kabutops, I mean, all it takes is a Will-O-Wisp, and that side of their damage output's completely like hindered. So yeah, like James said, they're basically relying on Kyogre to kind of pull off their wins. It looks like.
Yeah, it's got a bit the same problem as with Vicious Volcaronas. So I think it's it's the same. Yeah.
Right, I'll just put 5.5. Just go in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay.
Next team is Mineapolis Marshadows. We talked about a few minutes ago about the trade with Thundurus and Metagross.
Yeah, Thundurus.
So I think first, if we were to start with the trade, I think Metagross actually would be pretty decent on this team. Just because Whimsicott plus Metagross is super strong. Having Metagross under Tailwind, and you could do beat up or fling. I've seen fling strategies with it. It's pretty cool. I think Regidrago is very unneeded here though. Having Kyurem White as they're restricted, which is already a pretty solid dragon type in my opinion. Regidrago I feel like it could have been anything else.
Yeah, it's not really too good in this team.
No. I really like this team, to be honest. It doesn't really have any redirections. It doesn't have any fake out uses.
It's got ally switch.
Ally switch. It has ally switch, but that's just toxic. And I think Metagross gives a lot of options, but it also gives the team a lot of weaknesses.
Yeah, I think if they were to get Metagross, they would need to look into like I said, I would drop Regidrago for like a new flying type or electric type or something. Because Luxray is good as far as like intimidate, support, baby doll, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't see a lot of offensive usage. I think Vanillix is also kind of weird here, just because like Snow Warning, I guess you can just use it to switch weather, and run like choice Scarf Blizzard sets or something. But
yeah, I think it's interesting that we're using Vanillix because you can use Blizzard Cure and White. I understand that, but I would really trade Regidrago Luxray to give something more. Maybe I would say that we need to change Regidrago, Luxray, and Clawitzer to give some more points to a stronger water type. I don't know if you guys agree with it, but
I think a stronger water type would be nice too. I also think Decidueye is an interesting pick. I've seen people have success with it. I've also seen people not do anything. Like I used it last
pretty
season.
weak.
I brought it is very weak. It definitely needs Tailwind, but I think it's also kind of weird to have two grass like Whimsicott and Decidueye next to each other.
Yeah, it seems really weak to fire.
Look out. Yeah,
especially with the Metagross
it's
trade.
weak to fire. So I think he needs a stronger water type. So I think if he trades Regidrago with, I have the tier list next to me. If he trades those with something like, let's say, Swampert, or I'm just looking something up. Aracanet. Those are not the perfect names, but you get the point.
Yeah.
I think the only other statements I would make is, again, he doesn't have a fire type, so it's another team that lacks this common fire, water, grass core. I do really hope that he brings Beat Up with Absol. I would love to see Justified Absol do well, but I'm not. Who knows?
Yeah, last season someone also picked Beat Up, a Beat Up user with Absol, but it didn't really go well. Absol is just not fast enough, not strong enough to.
Yeah, it's not got enough bulk.
Yeah, you really wanted also more supportive Pokemon with Sucker Punch, strong Sucker Punch, knockoff, and some small support moves.
So what you rating this out of 10?
Yeah.
Out of 10, I'd probably give this one a 6.5. Like I said, I definitely see potential here. I think having Whimsicott's probably one of the best draft support Pokemon you can get, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I would still say 6, since it needs to get. He needs the improvement to. He really needs some improvements in the team, but I think it's got a lot of potential to go to 6.5, 7.
Right.
I'd probably go with 6 as well.
Works for me.
All right. Next up, it's Bert's farm. I'm not going to say anything about this right now, so you guys.
My first comment is I want to say you did really well drafting type coverage. You only have one fighting and one fairy weakness on that type chart. Not like one individual, but you know what I mean. Anyways, you did really good type wise. I think the main thing I would look at here is it doesn't seem like you have that many Dynamax options that would be super viable. Like obviously you have Zygarde, which is a tank once it's Dynamax. Rotom Wash is really good Dynamaxed, and maybe Camparaja and I guess Leafeon. But most of your team seems like supportive, that's not a bad thing because I mean it's super difficult to prep for the amount of support that you have on your team. You have Tailwind, Trick Room, you have an arsenal of fake out users. You basically can bring like 2 fake out users every week if you wanted to. You have Will-O-Wisp, you have screen setups, you have Electro Ice, other forms of speed control. So I think this is a really solid team. you're just relying very heavily on your Dynamax to put out damage.
Yeah, I can see that.
I'm personally not a fan of Blacephalon.
It's very interesting.
So weak. It's like 53 base defense and HP.
Yeah, and its signature move, Mind Blown, it gets walled by Wide Guard, which I know in draft, a lot of the times people carry Wide Guard.
Yeah.
For it.
Yeah.
And you've got loads of people that want to use Sash as well.
Yeah.
The reason why I got Blacephalon is because I because I wanted something against fighting types, and I needed a strong special fire type.
Right.
So,
which makes sense. I think it's it's a very fast, like, Will-O-Wisper. I do think it can do good things. I think that would be another thing, since James mentioned Focus Sash, though. There's a lot of Mons on your team that could use Focus Sash, so you might run into conflicts with, like, which Pokemon to put the Sash on in some cases.
Yeah, I think that's a huge problem in my team, yeah.
But overall, I mean, like I said, I could see really good success with it. Some of your Dynamax candidates, like Zygarde, I mean, their move pools are fairly strong as well. So I honestly, I think this would probably be the highest so far. I would say 7.5 or 8. I do think this is a good team.
Yeah, it's good. I'd probably say 7 max.
Yeah, same. I would say have this 7 max, just because I have a lot of I lack a bit of defensive mons, and I need some more offensive threats with taxing. I just want I really like my support with Purloin, Comfy, and Crobat. Having the extra options to do Sunny Day Leafeon, that's why I picked Purloin and Leafeon.
Gotcha. No, it's not bad. Not bad at all.
Yeah, that's all I have to say about it. I don't want to spoil too much, so.
No, you're good.
All right.
Yeah.
Plymouth Pangoros.
All right, this team. So I think this team suffers. A lot of people have this issue in draft. It has a lot of decent Pokemon on it, but there's not a lot of synergy between so you have the standard Trick Room course. He has like Calyrex Ice, Mimikyu, and I guess Turtonator in the back. There's some synergy there, but like Dracovish is just kind of there. He's obviously not going to be bringing like Sand Rush, so it's most likely just going to be the staple Strong Jaw set.
With Joyce Scarf.
Yeah,
I feel like his Pokemons are going to have a difficult time together, since you have a lot of slower Mons, but you also have a lot of Mons that need to be outside of Trick Room. You have things like Sceptile, Archeops.
I can definitely see him bringing Weakness Policy Sceptile 1 week.
Yeah, I would agree.
He needs to.
I do think Silvally.
Go ahead. He also has Silvally, so yeah, James, you have to talk about Silvally.
Yeah, Silvally is probably one of the best Pokemon in draft.
Oh, I hate it. I hate it so much. Every team I've ever faced with Silvally in draft, I lose to. I don't know how to prep for it. You can't really prep for it. I mean, you basically just hold prediction on what they're going to bring, and if you're wrong,
so
you're
big
wrong.
as well.
Yeah.
The main core he wants to run is Mimikyu, Cobalion, and Calyrex Ice, and I think besides that, he doesn't really have.
I feel beat up.
Yeah, beat up with Persian is, and Cobalion's very strong. I think what Cobalion lacks from is, if I'm not mistaken, it doesn't have access to a ground type move. So I know that's probably the biggest drawback in terms of Dynamaxing, is you basically just have to hit it specially, and it's usually taken care of. But I think Archeops is also in a weird place, because typically you'd see that paired to something like Weezing, for example, just because its ability is pretty niche. So I'm not sure I agree with Archeops, but I think
it's a decent Tailwind setter, I guess.
Yeah. It does have Galvantula is a fantastic Electroweb user. So I don't know, not too much bad. It's just like I said, I think overall just not too much synergy.
Yeah.
I'd probably rate this one.
I think a 6. It's got at 5 maybe, 5.5 maybe.
I would do 6. I think it has potential. It just comes down to prep and how they decide to use it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd go with 6. Right. So got Beppis next with the Falls Church Critters.
This is an interesting one.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I don't like this draft.
This is an interesting one for sure. So I do like Riolu Entei is a really good core. I think Primarina is pretty good, pretty decent in draft. Raikou has some versatility. Gigalith here, I'm not sure what Gigalith's. I mean, I know it's good. Obviously, good Sand Setter, good Trick Room Sweeper. Sigilif is an okay. I mean, I think Sigilif's cool because it can do Trick Room or Tailwind.
Yeah, and it's got Hypnosis, I think, which could be pretty
cool. I think Ditto is really weird in doubles formats in general. I'm not too keen on Ditto myself. I think Thwackey, it's not bad. It's actually fairly strong for a mid-stage evolution. I think Sandslash isn't too great as a ground type. Its move pool's kind of sad. I think Dusclops is really bad in draft.
Yeah, I really don't like Dusclops.
It's very easy to prep for, especially on top of having it next to Giratina. If all it takes is like an Urshifu,
or you can just taunt it as well.
Yeah.
You have to know, not every team has a Urshifu.
Oh no, I was just saying, like, it basically just a strong.
I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think I don't know. Overall, this team's lacking. Oh, you can go ahead.
Yeah, it also lacks a offensive Pokemon. Like you have Kikalith, that's the most offensive mon, and you besides that you have actually only.
I can see Giratina maxing a lot of the time.
Yeah, I could see him doing Shadow Sneak sets with Dusclops and just Weakness Ball. I can also see Riolu doing some cool coaching sets with Giratina, or Entei. Dynamaxing Entei with coaching is pretty strong, actually. But aside from that, I think Raikou's going to be more support than anything. Raikou does get Surf, though. Keep that in mind. So he can Surf into his Gigalith, into his Entei.
That's interesting. I think Riolu is going to be the main Pokemon on his team. I feel like Riolu will keep everything together. It's something like I don't know.
I agree. I also think having access to Copycat's really good. Especially to counter Trick Room. You basically just let your opponent set Trick Room up and then click Copycat, and since it's the last move, you reverse Trick Room with Prankster, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. It's only sad that he doesn't get Taunt. If Riolu got Taunt, it would have been so much better. But
I think I could see this team doing pretty well. Basically, like I said, you're basically just forcing your opponent to prep for Dusclops, and some other more obvious strategy. I would probably rate this one like a 6.5. Like I said, I'm very biased against Dusclops in draft, but I can't discredit that it can be used well, especially with Giratina.
Yeah, I'd probably go with a 7. He's got quite a few max options.
Yeah, I could even bump up to 7. I was on the fence there.
Yeah, I will say 7 too. 6.5, 7. I think a low 7 is. Yeah.
Sigilus can do some other crazy stuff. It's got a pretty cool move pool. We didn't even talk about like Imprison. It does carry.
And it's got gravity,
so, yeah.
gravity hypnosis.
Yeah, he can get creative. It just depends on how much he wants to get out of his comfort zone, I guess. But no, it's not a bad team.
Right. Next up, we have Yorum and South Shore Umbreons.
So I think is this the first one we've came across that doesn't have it restricted?
Yeah, I think so.
So we kind of talked about it beforehand. This isn't that's not a bad thing to not have it restricted. It's just at times you could feel disadvantaged just a little bit. But he does have an amazing Sun Core. He's basically got like a VGC 2021 like Sun Core with the Porygon 2 Torkoal Venusaur. Rhyperior's pretty solid here. Umbreon's fantastic on a Sun team. Moonlight is broken. Scrafty is a pretty good Intimidator.
Yeah, this team is pretty good.
His team
and
is
Heliolisk
good,
is good in Sun as well, with solar power.
Fighting types will just say boom. Like when most of his monks are weak against fighting types, but he doesn't really have a good counter against as Mr. Mime and Altaria, but
they're both pretty weak.
Yeah, I think the biggest drawback is having Altara as his only flying and dragon type. I think he has super good type coverage. I think he lacks a water type for more diversity. I
don't really like this Bronzong, to be honest.
Bronzong's not bad though, specifically for Levin.
Kind of gets like outclassed by Porygon.
Yeah. As far as like, I think having those two on the same team is interesting.
Yeah.
Does he get Bulldoze?
I feel like he got.
Bronzong Bulldoze. Yeah.
Yeah, he got and Porygon 2 and Bronzong and Revenant. 3 Trick Room uses. Bronzong can indeed do Bulldoze, so I would say that I Porygon 2 or Bronzong, one of the two.
Yeah.
I would trade one of the two just to get a better water type or a something else.
I'd honestly replace Porygon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think Porygon 2 is fantastic. I used to not like Porygon 2 in draft, but the more I keep facing it, and I've noticed people are getting creative with it. So it is worth the 17 points, but I think Bronzong can kind of do the same job, almost in a way.
Yeah,
but
and it can self-proc for Rhyperior.
Yeah.
We got some interesting restricted monks left for him. Like we got Kyurem Black, we got Palkia, and we also have Zekrom or Lunala. I think Palkia can do a decent job in his team. He will not have to use it very often, but when he needs to have a good water type counter against some teams, then you can use his Palkia. It's also, let's see, besides that, we don't really have any good water types for his team left.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
I think overall it's a really well-rounded team. I mean, Altaria being its only Tailwind setter doesn't matter because it's mostly Trick Room oriented anyways, and Venusaur is going to have speed control just with the Sun. It says he doesn't have a Fake Out user, but I'm like 80% sure Scrafty learns Fake Out.
Yeah.
And then having screens on Mr. Mime as well. Honestly, this is probably one of the better teams, even without the restricted right now.
Yeah, probably like 8 or 7.5.
I would honestly shoot the 8. I would go for the 8.
Yeah. The only thing I will change is the Altaria and try to change the Trick Room, one of the Trick Room setters.
Yeah.
Probably Porygon 2 for some monks, but it's really good, so I would say a 8 too.
Alright. We've got Nidas now.
Next up.
And Cactus Bread Buffet.
Yes. I really like this team.
Yeah, this is actually a really solid.
I am really scared for it. It's got a triple Intimidate core. It's got Incineroar, which is extremely good. It also has a pair with Abomasnow and Beartic. Mineapolis is a great fighting type Pokemon. Klefki, Prankster, Thunderwave, and Trappings to trap opponents.
I'm very biased towards the Abomasnow. It has a hole in my heart. But I think Klefki, it supports the entire team like perfectly. Even just setting up Prankster Rain Dance that protects Abomasnow, Beartic, Necrozma, Incineroar. Or not Incineroar. And it kind of helps out with Gyarados a little bit. I think having 3 Intimidators is good up until you face... if you face a Defiant or competitive Pokemon, you have to keep that in mind. If those 2 abilities slip your mind during prep, you can easily proc Defiant or something. I do think Moxie Gyarados could be good on this team, especially under screens or something.
Moxie Gyarados is really good with Choice Scarf, Power Whip, Earthquake. He got Landorus, Therian, and Gyarados, so he can also combo an Earthquakes. That's really scary.
I think this team is too physically orientated, though.
Yeah, it doesn't have too much special. That's where I was getting to. Abomasnow can run special sets, but...
besides that, it also doesn't have much speed control. It has Thunder Wave, and it has Trick Room Kovakrikers, but besides that, it doesn't really have something.
Yeah, it really kind of get put down by like Will-O-Wisp or Burns. That is true. Yeah. I think even regarding that, it has really good type coverages here. I think the only thing would have been to get some type of like lightning rod for. I think having the 4 times electric weakness, his only really switch into that would be like to switch into Lando and use the immunity to his advantage. I mean, obviously Crab Pinch is there, but
it also has Necrozma, of course, which.
So I don't know. I think because of it being too physical, I would still say it's like probably a 7 in my opinion. It's a super strong team. I think
it's a 7.5.
Yeah, I think Lumberry would probably just have to be a used item pretty often.
Yeah.
What would you rate it out of 10?
You can also, and by the way, Klefki has also crafty cards. Let me check really quick.
I'd say a 7.
Crafty cards defense against. Klefki also has Crafty Shield, which prevents all allies from status moves. So even Will-O-Wisp is not a huge problem against this team.
That's interesting. No, I definitely would. I'd probably say a 7 for this one.
I would say 7.5. I think it's really strong, and when the problem is when people are going to find out his strategy. He don't really have something unexpected. Everything is very going forward. So if people see his strategy, then he will do a lot worse. But besides that, yeah, it's just really strong.
Yeah, I'd probably say solid 7 out of 10.
Sounds good.
Right.
Next up, Johns Sharpedos from Trenny.
This one, I'm not too keen on this team.
I really like this team, not gonna lie.
I think we have different opinions. I think
is so strong, especially with Speed Swap from Pheromosa.
Right. Which that is fair. There are definitely like strong aspects. I just think as far as typing and some of the Pokemon have me a little confused. I think again it's another case where like I feel like a water type should be on almost every draft team just because it's one of the top tier typings in my opinion. But my biggest question is Sneasel. I don't really know what Sneasel's doing here aside from maybe ice sharding into like a Groudon or surfing into something.
Yeah, I don't really see what it does.
No, and I think this team has some big weaknesses to some of the most popular typings. Like I think having a bunch of fire weaknesses, water weaknesses, flying, rock. It's like he doesn't have much to protect his Charizard, for example. Aside from like maybe the Groudon in certain type cases, but I do like the different speed tiers. It's very versatile in that terms. It can go fast or go slow.
Ivysaur is also a really nice pickup for 2 points.
Yeah, in a Suncore especially. I do think Clefairy is pretty decent in draft, but it's another thing where it's like if you're facing this team, you basically have to prep for the Clefairy follow me shenanigans no matter what, even if he doesn't bring it. So it kind of baits him.
Yeah.
So it's a strong team. I have questions. Like I said, the Sneasel. There's other, especially for 7 points. I think there's some things that could be changed around. I don't really know much about.
I also don't really like Lorenz in this team.
Yeah, I'd probably switch that out as well.
Confused. Yeah, I'm really confused about some choices he made in his team, especially with Charizard, G-Max, and Groudon seeming his main core. He probably wants to run 2 types of teams: Groudon, Clefairy, Charizard, G-Max, with something like Pheromosa, Ivysaur, and Sneasel. And then he got a second team with Conkeldurr, Marowak, Alola, Pheromosa, Reuniclus, Clefairy, and maybe also Groudon. But I don't see anything crazy happening. He don't really. It seems like he got 2 cores of teams he can prepare with, but it doesn't feel like a team.
All right.
It doesn't feel like a whole team. It more feels like multiple cores, which are very good with Groudon, Fairy, Charizard, G-Max, Conkeldurr, Marowak, Alola, Reuniclus, Pheromosa trying to speed swap some things, but I don't really feel like he's going to make something happen with it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it just depends on his prep. There's easily probably something we're overlooking. I think despite some of the questions, I would still rate this like a 6.5. just because Groudon's extremely strong, especially in a Dynamax format. You can run Assault Vest sets even.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I'd probably go for like 7.5. But
Interesting.
Let's we
I'm
can
good with
keep
putting
it
6.5.
being.
No, I mean we can go in the middle. I'd agree with the 7.
All right.
I can see 7, but
Yeah.
it's just I feel it's just painful for me to look. I don't know. I don't really like
With a few
it.
switches, it would probably be really good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I would honestly, I would say the same for all of these teams. All of these teams could switch 1 or 2 Pokemon and be probably bumped up another point or 2 out of 10 if we were rating them.
Yeah.
But that's most times with the most draft. Like, yeah. I'm really enjoy watching those teams. Next up we have Green Bay Greninjas. A really interesting team in my opinion.
It has a lot of again, it's another team that has a lot of weaknesses. As far as type diversity, it's got a lot of ground types and a lot of ground type weaknesses.
Yeah. He's got 1 immunity to ground and no resistance.
Yeah. Which is, it's not too, ground types are probably one of the most popular types. Not just like type alone, but type coverage. There's so many Pokemon that have ground type moves, especially Dynamax users that have them. So that's kind of brutal. I will say speed tiers are kind of weird. He doesn't have anything that breaks 100 speed. And his only Tailwind setter is Corviknight, which isn't the most consistent.
I will just say I'm not going to say this team is bad. He showed last season. He also showed how good he is with Tyranitar and with Sand teams. He is really strong. He got crazy teams. Like beforehand, I see a lot of weaknesses, ground weaknesses, water weaknesses, fighting weaknesses. But in some way, he managed it to. People are going to prepare against it with fighting types and don't really. It's really easy for him to counter predict of counter how do I say it? To counter pick his Pokemons. He also has a really strong core with Tyranitar, Dracozolt against a lot of water types this season. Seismic Togekiss with water absorb, Lily with Storm Drain.
And he does have the Seismitoad with Water Absorb as well, which isn't bad. I just think I think it's almost relying too much on the Sand Core. Like if he loses his weather control, he loses then his speed control as well. But I don't know. It's definitely a very scary looking team on paper.
Yeah.
Solgaleo is actually. I think Solgaleo is a wonderful restricted. I think it's just a slightly better Metagross in my opinion.
Yeah.
Bulldozing into it obviously is super strong. So I don't. This is probably at least a 7.5 for me.
Yeah. I can go with.
I'd probably say 5 to be honest.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I understand that. I would say 6. But I'm probably going to regret saying this.
Purely based off the team, it's probably a 5.
Just looking at the team, it's
I get weaknesses and whatnot. Yeah.
Just looking at the team it's a 5, but knowing how this player managed to play with his team. I really gained respect that season for his for the playstyle, and I'm really happy. I would really like to see him him proving that we are wrong again this season.
Yeah, no, it's.
Just,
I think
yeah.
we can agree on. We can probably agree on 6 then.
Yeah, 6.
Just I know what you mean, James, but I have said the same last season, and it he did so well. He gained access to playoffs, and in playoffs he will gain he gained some. Yeah, I really like his playstyle. And it's interesting to see in the upcoming video, maybe, how he's going to play that match. We don't know when the next video with him included will come out, but I would say look forward to it.
Yeah.
Next team. Birmingham Blazikens from SEC.
So I personally I don't really like this team starting out. I think it's focused too much on the Trick Room core with Glacier, Indeedee, and Hatterene. And Hatterene's really his primary Trick Room setter, I would assume. I don't see Orbeetles getting too much use. I think Suicune. I love Suicune in draft, but there's not much going for it. Like setting Tailwind, he doesn't really have like a sweeper to use under Tailwind real well. Arcanine's good for Intimidate, Support, even Dynamaxing, but he doesn't have Beat Up, so he's not going to be using Justified really. I think he also has a massive amount of weaknesses. Overall, just it seems kind of there's a lot of out of place Pokemon here in my opinion.
Yeah.
Dragalge is really good though.
Also...
His adaptability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So
this is the same again. I think when Arcanine is gone, then he also again has a big problems against steel types. I feel like a lot of these teams has a lot of problems.
Yeah, I agree. I think
steel types.
I think Barracuda could be anything else as well as far as type coverage goes.
And I feel like when Hatterene is gone, then also the connection between all the Pokemon is gone. Indeed, the female has followed me, but it doesn't really carry this team too much. Barracuda is a bit out of place here. Same goes for Suicune.
Morgrim's a really good support mon though. It just sucks because you kind of have to rely on Eviolite on it rather than doing. If you sacrifice Eviolite, you're to run like full incense or do any like the Grimmsnarl strats, then it's just gonna die pretty quick. But aside from that, at first glance, I think this is one of the lower tier teams in my opinion though.
Yeah, I'd probably give it like 4.5.
Yeah, I would do a 4.5.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I have it really low, so yes. I already made the tier list before, and yeah. Yes, I feel like it's yeah. I can't really say something. I try to say something good about it. It's like it's Trick Room core with Hatterene is good. Indeed, the female is right. Glacier is good. Besides that, try to find in the next couple hours some. Oh no, he's can't save this before the crash period. But try to trade something. And try to find something that makes this team complete.
Right.
Yeah.
Next we have Pogging Porygons, coached by OC Fry.
So this one's not bad. It's pretty diverse in terms of typing. The Magikarp pick I think is just a meme.
Yeah.
Even Yveltal's a really strong, restricted in a Dynamax format.
This
Reggie
team looks
Elliott,
really strong.
yeah, this team it looks actually very strong. Torkoals actually a really good option for Intimidate. It's a lot faster than Incineroar, and it drops the Dark typing, which a lot of people forget. I think Azumarill is actually really good in draft. Huge power is insane.
Yeah, you can
Clefable's
set
not
up as well
yeah,
with the follow
absolutely.
me.
So he's got a pretty good core there. He can honestly do the same thing. Follow me with, next to Garchomp with Sword Dance, or I think it still gets Dragon Dance. Spectre with Nasty Plot. I mean, he has all kinds of setup you can do. Appleton, I'm really curious to see how he uses. I think my biggest issue would just be the two Dragon types with dual Ice weaknesses.
Oh yeah, 4 times on both.
On both, yeah, that's about the only interesting thing. But aside from that, plus he has Yveltal as well, so.
Team goes away with when Blizzard is really bad against this team, and it doesn't really have a good fire type. It has Torkoals and Spreadcinder, but both are more supportive monks with not a great amount of firepower. Yes, it was intended.
I definitely think he has speed control though between having the fastest Electro Web user on top of Spectre with Bulldoze as well. Two of the fastest Pokemon in the game, and then he has Fletchinder, which isn't a bad a cheap Tailwind option. So
I also like Slowpoke. I like Slowpoke color. It was only 1 point, and it's a bulky psychic type with Trick Room, Yawn, Thunder Wave, Eviolite, Regenerator, Skill Swap. So I think it's really good.
I think Magikarp's definitely the medium.
Yeah.
I'd probably rate this team I'd probably do a 7.5 on this one. It seems really strong aside from the Dragon Ice weaknesses, but
yeah, I'd agree with 7.5.
Same. I will dare this team to Dynamax Magikarp 1 time to gain max S-Stream boost. But yes, 7.5 seems suitable.
Right. So on to the second last team. Got Even Kiwi and the Tokyo Torkoals.
I think this team looks nuts. If I'm being honest, this is my first time seeing this team, and I think this is maybe one of my favorites so far. I know Zamazenta gets a lot of bashing in the community, but I actually think it's really good for draft because it can play. It's one of the few restricteds that can be a support. Tapu Fini is pretty decent. It's just a bulkier or a more offensive. I don't know. It's bulkier than Purina. Urshifu is not too bad. He has a lot of coaching options. Zapdos, Urshifu, and Zamazenta can all do coaching. Cradily, really good water immunity, and then he has Rotom for the ground immunity as well. Grimmsnarl, fantastic support.
And I will say that I don't like this team. Personally.
That's fair.
It has a lot of fighting types, like Zamazenta Crowns, Urshifu single G-Max with Scepter Scholar. I don't really see any good offensive mons besides Urshifu G-Max. Most of his mons, yes, Rotom Heat can perform something, Tapu Fini can perform something, Scepter Scholar, but it's not something that you think like, oh, now I'm scared of this team. It has a lot of support options.
I guess it just depends on how you look at it. Because I would be kind of terrified of this team just because of how many, like Tapu Fini. He has all of his Pokemon can essentially Dynamax. You can even run offensive Grimmsnarl sets if you wanted to, but his first 7 Pokemon, those could all potentially be Dynamax candidates. So trying to prep to specifically pinpoint what he's going to bring, it's not the easiest team to prep for, in my opinion.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's got a lot of the same weaknesses.
He's got a lot of dual typing.
Yeah.
Duplicate typings.
Yes.
I think the only other issue would just be speed control. It doesn't. This team would benefit really well from Tailwind, and it doesn't. They don't have Tailwind, but
Yeah.
Icy Wind's not a bad move. His only issue is Electro and Icy Wind are on Mons that are kind of too slow to really use it well. So
I'll probably give this team about 6 or 6.5.
I would do 6.5.
I would personally do 6, but I can understand both. Yeah. I don't like it, but I can see why people would like it.
And on to the last team.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Verti, whoever you say it, coach of the Harrisburg Gallades.
This is another team. I actually like this team a lot. It doesn't have a fairy type, for any type of like resist or anything, which isn't awful. It has a lot of ground resist or ground weaknesses. I mean, I don't like Colossal in draft whatsoever.
Yeah, same.
But minus the Colossal, I think Rillaboom, super strong pick. Dialga's a really good restricted. Crocodiles, got a lot of usage actually. I think Urshifu, Rapid Strike's the worst of the two choices, but I think it's a decent water type for this team. Bolton's a fairly strong support Pokemon. Sableye, it's another Pokemon where you kind of have to prep for it because Quash is one of the most annoying moves.
Yeah, I hate prepping against Sableye. All the options.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have used it past season, and that was the only Pokemon that carried my team. That was a right point.
I think it has a decent. I think Dialga under Trick Room is really weird. I've seen it work out. I think speed control is just another issue with this team. I think they're relying on like Colossal to be +6 speed. I think Aqua Jet into Colossal is probably their strat with Urshifu.
Don't forget about Dialga having Trick Room.
Yeah.
I think Dialga with Colossal can also bring a surprise with Dialga using Trick Room and Colossal Protect and then Bulldoze into the Colossal to claim the weakness policy and lowers his speed. I've used in a past draft league Dusclops Colossal. This way I was able to use first Trick Room Colossal, and after that I was able to use the Steam Engine to gain a boost in his speed, so I was able to use both ends of the speed control, so if the opponent team gained more control in Trick Room, I could delete the Trick Room and then use Colossal as a speedy mode.
Right.
So we have a possibility to use it, but Rillaboom is always strong. Crocodile with Process was also interesting.
I think the only change I would make would be to find a flying type. If this team had a flying type, that'd give them a ground immunity and cancel out their bigger ground weakness here a little bit. I think it'd be a really solid team with the flying type. But aside from that, I'd probably rate this one like a 6.5 again, just because of the common weaknesses.
Yeah, I'd go the same, 6.5.
Yeah, same.
And
yes.
That's all the rankings. We can just take a look at all the rankings put together in a table quickly. As you can see, first place goes to South Shore Umbreons. That team didn't have a restricted, did it?
Correct. That is the team without the restricted.
But it's actually funny. It's the one without restricted.
It's a super strong, well-rounded team. I think they can do well without the restricted, if I'm being honest. And like we said, if they were to listen to our brief advice, they could easily drop the Porygon or something to pick up a restricted and be even better. So,
who do you guys think will be the champion of Fish League?
I'm hoping whoever has the Abomasnow. That would be Nidus.
Yeah, I think Nidus will win.
That's my prediction.
Same. I think the same. I don't hope so, but I feel the same. And I think that we can end up the video right here. Please leave in the comments which team you think is the best. And I think we see you guys next time.
Wish you guys luck.
Yeah, good luck to everyone.